Hi everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to LinkedIn Live podcast event. Today we have R. Swaminathan, co-founder and director of Allegre Ventures, a Singapore-based company offering advisory and consultancy services to help SMEs unlock full potential of their data so that they can make informed decisions for business growth and operational excellence. Swami holds a master's degree from National University of Singapore. He's based out of Singapore and will be discussing on the topic of crafting effective data strategy, key steps, success in data driven age. Without further ado, I would like to bring Swaminathan sir to the session. Hi Swaminathan sir, welcome to the session. Pleasure
Hello.
having
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thanks, Prem.
Sir, just wanted to introduce yourself so that they know a little bit about. I've just given a small introduction. If you want to add something, that would be great, sir.
Yes, yeah, as you said, that co-founder and director of a startup, I would say a startup, a small company. And basically, I was in EMC, followed by Dell for quite long. And then one of my passion is teaching. So I still do part-time teaching in some of the local institutions here. Mainly again data related stuff, data analytics, data visualization, data mining, and data storytelling, and those are some of the subjects I teach because I like teaching, and that also helps me to keep abreast of the developments in the data space and makes me to read a lot now than when you are working. And yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and then without further delay I will hand it over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, to start the topic's discussion, what are some of the biggest challenges organization face when it comes to leveraging data effectively, sir?
Okay, that's a good question. First of all, let's start from leveraging data. What do you mean leveraging data? It's a strategic use of data to understand the business, how it was running, and how can we improve, and what we should do to achieve our goal towards growth and profit. So this involves collecting of data, analyzing it, getting insights, and based on the insights, we have to act. So we see data everywhere, and companies now collect more than ever because there's a data deluge. It's a huge amount of data being flowing. According to IDC, by the end of 2025, it is expected that 175 zettabytes of data will be generated in the world. So to give the magnitude of the data size, one zettabytes is a billion terabytes. That means you would have seen now the handy 1 terabyte drives, simple drives where you carry along with you as a backup. So the 1 billion such drives form one zettabyte. So that's a kind of information we are producing. So data is the core of a business, no doubt about it. They say data is electricity, data is oil, new oil, like all this stuff. But or is every company is utilizing the data effectively, or to answer your question, leveraging data effectively? According to Forrester research report, 74% of the organization want to be data driven. Quite good. But actually only 29% of them deriving good value from their insights that they get from analyzing data. So we can say we are data rich but information poor, which is a very old adage from the In Search of Excellence book. So while we are surrounded by data, the deluge of data, and also we have a good affordable storage technologies to store them and powerful tools and techniques to analyze them, still many of us struggle. Many organizations struggle unlock the power because the complexity of data and the variety and veracity of data makes it very difficult for us to truly comprehend data as a good data, and from there assign meaning and context to the data to get insights. So the complexity, the big flow of data along with complexity makes it very difficult for us to get the full benefit of data. That's the very major statement. So if you want to list out the challenges, the first thing is Alignment of data with the business requirements. So when we talk about data, we say, okay, yeah, data. I have a data. I have my internal, external. I do have from my CRM system, Oracle, or SAP, and all this. But do you align that with your business goal? What are we trying to achieve? So I want to increase my customer acquisition by X%, or I want to reduce customer compliance by Y%. So that's the goal. So how do we align? The first thing is alignment of whatever data we have with the business objectives or business problems to try to solve. Second is the most important one, data quality. Because the data what we have in the real world we call as a dirty data. It's not tidy up. We have to do tidy up. Yeah. The third one is data ownership. A lot of companies miss this point. So who is owning the data? So we have to talk about the data producers, data consumers, data stewards, and finally the management. Then the fourth one is data accessibility and security. Very important. Does everyone in the company have has access to the data? I mean, within quotes, the right data, the right time. Is the data is secured and stored properly? And finally, data skills. So how many of my employees can work with the data, make sense out of it? So I'll be briefly touching upon one of these with data literacy. So these are the five challenges I would put it there: alignment with the business objectives, quality of the data, ownership, data ownership, data access and security, and finally data skills. So then we talk about companies with 29% getting the insights. So
Hmm.
then how do I do it? So that's where we are aligning with the data strategy. We got to talk about data strategy. So you have to create it. Is it necessary? Yes, for any data related project. But unfortunately, according to the Accenture report, one of the survey they did, 81% of the organizations lack an enterprise-wide data strategy. See, people take it as it's become a misnomer. When you say data strategy, I work only with data. Oh, I make sure the quality of data is there, who is the owner, accessibility. I totally forgot about the first point, aligning with the business requirements. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you for that, sir. Sir, how do we currently measure the success of our data strategy? And what are the metrics do you find most valuable for us?
Okay, good question. I think the good questions are very well organized. Yeah, a well-defined data strategy is crucial for any organization. We just know saw from the challenges
Yeah.
in order to leverage the data. So, what are the metrics we are going to use it? So, first of all, you would have guessed it. We have to align with the business requirement. So, the first metric is how many data-related projects produce results, positive results.
Hmm.
How many data related projects were finished well within the budget? First of all, how many projects have been done with data driven in mind? So this is kind of some of the metrics we can measure. Second one is the data quality. Obviously, we all the old adage, garbage in, garbage out. So that still holds good. It's a never ever live quote. I like it. So the data quality, because poor quality can lead to wrong insights, and again, decision based on wrong insights is obviously is going to impact the business. So wasted resources, etc. So what are the metrics? The data completeness. Do I have a complete data? Do we have accurate data? Do we have a reliable and consistent data? Is it timely? Do I have a timely data? I don't want 10 years back data. I'm analyzing the last 6 months of my business. Do I have the data? So these are all we call quality dimensions. So you have to measure them. The
Hmm.
third one is data accessibility. Actually, briefed one of the challenges I talked about. So is it available to the right people at the right time? Is it protected? Is the
Hmm.
access of data is easy? Is it secured? So what are the metrics? How many data requests come in? So the old days, if you want any report, I go to the IT department, I just ask them. I don't worry about data access. I don't worry about where the data available, but things have changed a lot now because we talk about self-service analytics. So I should know where is my data sits and I should have access to it. So how many times I requested and how many times successfully I got data access. That's one of the metrics. What is the data usage frequency? For example, the finance manager. uses every week the weekly data in order to look at his cash flow, etc. Then third one is data access policy. There's policy compliance. I'm going to touch upon because these all under data strategy. There's another one going to call about data governance. So these make sure I put up a policy saying who is the owner. First of all, starting with the data owner. So who is the owner? Who could access, and how do I define the access? So do we have an access matrix? The third one I just mentioned, data governance, because in order to make sure my data is consistent at all the time, consistently of good quality at all times across the life cycle of the data, from the source where I produce the data, then I clean up, I do exploratory data analysis to understand, then I do a deep analysis to get insights, and then I share the insight with the relevant audience. After that, there is a life cycle. Is the data has to be stored for me, depending on the company data storage policy, 5 years, 7 years. After that, can I delete, remove it from the system? So it's got a life cycle. So throughout the life cycle, I do get a consistent quality of data. So this is
Hmm.
one thing. Yeah, data. Then as part of the governance, is the data, how is it changing? Is there any anomalies? Are there any outliers? I should keep monitoring. Because once I start the data pipeline, so-called the flow of data into my system, whether it's analytic projects, whether it's a digital transmission or AI, any project, the data pipeline has to be monitored. That's why we now talk about data observability. There are tools available because manually it's very difficult. And also, I should track how the data is being produced, how it goes through, what changes it goes through, and where it ends. It's a complete traceability, which we call data lineage, another term which is very popular nowadays under data governance. Okay. Then the fourth one, metrics, is related to data analytics, because the first step before I do any data related projects, I make sure that I have a quality data. Then I do data analytics. First of all, to understand the business, even to understand what problem we have and what are the key reasons for the problem, I need to do exploratory data analysis. So analytics is one of them. So then the metrics, what are the metrics? What is the ROI of data analytics project? That's the first one. Everyone talk about it. What are the number of decisions made with the insights I produce after analytics? Okay, this is the final one is the data strategy alignment. Okay, that should come the first one. I align my data or data strategy to the business goal, what I'm trying to solve. Okay, these are the things we should measure. I think Prem, I hope it answers your question.
It does. Thank you for that. Sir, now how do we align that to see we have lot of data coming in and we see lot of structured, unstructured data which is available. Okay. Now how do we look at getting this data or ensure this data is aligned with our overall business goals and objectives?
Good. Again, like a very good question. I mean, that is where the data strategy comes into play. Yeah, a very critical role. The first thing I do before even I start any data project is data strategy. Create a data strategy. We are going to talk about how to create later. So data strategy. So it's actually a top-down approach,
Okay.
meaning you create a data strategy and then identify the business objectives and goals. Correct. I mean, every organization go through the SWOT analysis, putting up SMART goals. Correct.
Mhm.
And talking to the
Yeah.
stakeholders, each one, the finance, the CIOs, all the CXOs, you have to talk to them saying, hey, look, these are the problems you guys have. Correct. So I'm going to put up a strategy where I'm trying to address these problems. So that's the first alignment. And then the second step is assess the data maturity. I mean, every organization has got some way or rather some kind of data, knowingly or unknowingly, because now knowingly they're doing because that has become the new oil. So they have the internal data, external, they produce, but not sure at what stage they are in. So we have to do a data maturity assessment. We call data landscape assessment or maturity assessment. Okay. So that one will see you what data we have, what are the sources, do we have external, internal sources, where it is stored, who is the owner, how do you make sure the quality is ensured, what kind of a pipeline are we building, or ETL process, extract, transform, load, and all those are all coming up in my data maturity assessment output. Kind of data inventory, do we have a governance policy, etc. So in the third step, obviously there'll be gap. I don't think the data maturity will be matured enough for you to go straight away to the data project. I think again, one of the Gartner's report says that most of the companies are in the middle. Most of them. 2 years back, they were in the beginning stage. At least they've gone through the beginner stage. They are in the progressive stage. They are not matured enough. They are not defined. They are not matured enough to say, oh, we are a data-driven company. So now identify the gap and pain points. I know I have a data, but then the timely data is not available because the team, the cleaning takes a lot of time. So what do we do? Even instead of getting a weekly report, I get my weekly report a few days after the weekends. So how do I make sure that I get it? So the pain points, right? Conduct a gap analysis. That's everywhere, like the skills gap or data maturity gap. And then you develop a data strategy that aligns with your business strategy where I have to create a data vision, right? And then I have to identify data sources, whether they are secure, they are trustworthy, whether they are ethically governed. All these you have to make sure because data is the foundation brick for any data related project. And then you have to prioritize because each department, oh, I want this problem to be solved. I want this problem to be solved. There will be 50 problems on hand. I can't be managing all of them by putting one simple data strategy. Again, by the way, data strategy is not a one time document, it's a living and progressing and changing document because periodically we have to review, go back to the stakeholders and go back to the business unit saying, hey guys, last year we produced the data strategy. Do you think that it's beneficial? Are you able to solve your problem? May not be solving all the 50 problems. That's why the priority comes into effect. Like again, priority people give you a list of 5 priorities. No, priority is like two arms. If I have more than two prioritized items, either I'm lying or I'm kind of in an imaginary world. That's only two priority,
Yes.
right? You've
Yeah.
seen priority list 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's a priority
Yes.
list. So those are the few things. If you follow these 5 steps, we can make sure that I'm aligning the data strategy to the business goal. Yeah. So first of all, understanding the problem, talking to the stakeholders, prioritizing, identifying the gap and pain points, and then aligning the business goal to the business data strategy.
So it is more important to keep the stakeholders in mind, prioritize,
Correct.
and
Correct.
list the priorities based on the need of the hour for the business, and that's how we
Correct.
better base. So good
Correct.
insight, sir. Sir, what are the success stories or examples of how implementation of data strategy has been positively impacted any organization or
Yeah.
your organization that you have worked with, sir?
Correct. Correct. Actually, that's it's a good question, but a bit tricky one because see the whole thing is a bit tricky because the data strategy, data governance is an ongoing process. Like I said, periodically or maybe annually, they keep changing it. And
Yeah.
given the sensitivity and the competitive nature of the internal things happening, not the companies are openly sharing, but luckily there are some use cases. You may question how do you say that this is because of data strategy? That is no proof, but
Also adding more of governance pieces getting changed and stuff coming in
correct,
on a very regular basis saying that this is a
correct,
policy that will change, and that
correct, correct,
changes the whole way that you have collected data, and which
absolutely
I think is going to change the whole process of what you have collected, processed, and some policy says this is not required, so you'll have to clean up that data as well. So
correct, correct.
yeah,
You're right.
okay, got
So to answer, there are a lot of examples illustrate the how the implementation of a suitable data strategy. Because again, one size doesn't fit all, and it's not a one-time document. It's a living
it.
document. So, for example, driving better data-driven decisions, probably in the retail industry, where I talk about customer segmentation, personalization, where you heard about market basket analysis. Again, these are all machine learning model, but then the foundation is data strategy and governance. So they have having a good strategy and governance. I make sure I do have a quality data, accurate, reliable, and ethical data. So in the retail, you can say the market basket analysis, customer segmentation for targeted marketing, etc. And then in the pharmaceutical industry, people say, what are the chances of getting readmission? Like
Hmm.
you have a predictive modeling and analytics. Again, it's all analytics only, but this is in the pharmaceutical industry. That is towards reducing the cost, because readmission is going to cost money for the hospital. Particularly places like Singapore, the beds number of beds crunching is very very serious. During the COVID-19 time, we were running out of beds.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
serious. Yeah, so we are running out of beds. So people have to be say, what are the once he's get cured and patient get discharged, what are the chances of getting readmission? That we should try to avoid and then expect, predict. So that's the second one. In the financial, obviously the risk management and fraud detection. I mean, these are all, again, if you look at these use cases or use cases of either data analytics or AI, but then the foundation is a good data strategy and data governance. In the manufacturing, again, predictive maintenance. So this is a very generic. If you ask me, can you spell a particular company? Yeah, I can take Netflix, for example. Yeah, they have openly said we do have an effective data strategy which we keep reviewing and changing on an annual basis. They have a highly personalized viewing experience for his viewers. It recommends. People who
Hmm.
watch this movie also watch, and based on your watching habits, you may like this family drama or suspense. You know, and then that way they're able to create most appropriate content for the audience, and they can invest on the technology. So once there's a logic, this model works, yeah, fine, I'll do this. So I will invest more, and then the recommendations I make it to them. Starbucks, for example, they collect a lot of customer data. Right? I mean, when you pay, and then when you have a Starbucks card, or sometimes
Yeah.
even when you enter, they're able to do it. So this is increases their customer loyalty and branding. Because I know my customers, and I want to share a very very interesting but funny use cases. So suddenly during the COVID-19 time, obviously the sales of Starbucks reduced.
Hmm.
You may think that, oh, this is because people are not visiting. Actually, that was not the reason.
Okay.
Because this is the use case given by Tableau, one of the BI and analytical tool software.
Okay.
Because in Starbucks, people mainly come to use the toilets, so clean. And by the
Okay.
way, they buy coffee. You know, so they can drive the branding, and they can drive the loyalty. So they have a loyalty programs for that. The third one, I can say, the Airbnb, one of the
Yeah.
key player in the hospitality industry. They drive more bookings and make customers happy, because when the customer is trying to search, it doesn't give you not available answers, right?
Yeah.
So in a way, it forces you to select. Instead of, you may not get your exactly 100% matching option for your search, but you try to influence the customer to go for a near equivalent option.
Hmm.
Yeah. So those are some of the use cases where you can say the foundation is a very good, a successful data strategy, which also covers the data governance, because data governance is one of the critical success factor under data strategy.
Okay.
Yep.
Sir, what role do you believe emerging technologies such as AI and machine learning play in shaping data strategies?
Yeah, again, another good question, because it's an emerging technology, AI, and then now everyone talk about Gen AI.
Yeah.
Even people who doesn't know about AI now talk about Gen AI, which is a good thing, right? Good trend. Um, so they revolutionize the data strategies. But how, you can ask me, how do you do it? But after all, I try to align my business goal to the data strategy and make sure it governed well, right? And then I
Yeah.
talk to the stakeholders. But then the whole of the purpose of data strategy now kind of take a turn to include advanced analytics. For example, actionable intelligence from complex data sets. So no more kind of, like you mentioned in the beginning, unstructured, structured, semi-structured. Because in fact, the unstructured data is supposed to be the gold mine, where you do
Mm.
have a true customer feedback, customer sentiments. If you send a questionnaire to ask how would you find our product, 1 to 5, 1 is poor, 5 is best, you get a standard answer and may not be the true reflection of their feeling. Whereas when I sent a text, either a Twitter or a WhatsApp or any social media to my friend saying, hey, yesterday I went to Nike showroom, it's value for money. I buy one, get one free, and then the shoe is so good for running, is excellent. That's my true feedback. But if I can get access to that data, that's gold mine for companies, correct? So the advanced analytics, where I'm trying to use the complex or so-called unstructured data to really drive value and insights, get customer insights, understand the customer much better than the standard conventional mechanism. The second one is the predictive analytics. So again, I mean, say this is, we have been doing it, but then the things have changed now. They are applying AI in order to drive more insights. So they do an intelligent job of mining the data, then I do manually, and then produce the predictive output, predictive analytics output. Then personalization. In fact, data strategy also includes now how can I personalize my offering? Okay. For example, tailoring marketing, targeted marketing, even marketing messages. They're going to be very, very tailored, customized. It's not like I do have a generic marketing flyers and product specifications. That's one thing. Then third one is automation, because now 55% of the companies do manual cleaning, manual collection, manual ETL, extract, transform, load, and then a lot of manual stuff. Since
Mm.
AI is in place, like ChatGPTs or BART or LLMs in place, I use those techniques, tools to automate my whole data collection, data cleaning, data preparation process. So that not only make things easier, quicker, and cost effective. Yeah. Then the next one is the security and risk management. So that is going to be becoming part of my data strategy. Like I was mentioning before we started the session, now the AI ethics and governance, data strategy, data governance play a very, very critical role. For example, if I have a bias to data, without unknowingly, I just use it. For example, again, use case is in the US healthcare, the claims, medical claim made by a lot of seniors were rejected
Mm.
because of unbalanced data, or in other words, biased data. The second one is the facial recognition system, unfortunately, identified the black people as culprits
Oh, okay.
because the data they had was not balanced. I have a large amount of data for one race and the small amount of data for the other race. So that is the problem with unbalanced data. And even medical field, they said that particular race is not at all affected by certain diseases. That's wrong, because this particular minority race are not able to afford medical treatment. They don't go to the hospital. So the data is missing. So these are cases of unbalanced or biased data. Yeah. Then finally, you have continuous learning and improvement, because I mean, again, this is, as you know, within a year, the whole AI arena has changed with chat GPTs and LLMs, and everyone is talking about how many tools have come out. I can create my own website. I can create my accounting. I can create my presentation. I can create my video,
Yeah.
right? So this continuous learning and improvement is part of it. So how do I make sure I don't miss those opportunities and make sure my data strategy covers them. So overall, emerging technologies such as AI and machine learning are transforming the way organizations start preparing or start modifying the data strategy. Okay,
Well, adding to that, I have another point that I would like to have your
please.
inputs.
Yep.
How do you approach data governance and ensure data privacy and security within the organization? Because while we connect data, a lot of data has been collected
Correct.
on various platforms. I think I am not sure in Singapore, but in India at least we collect huge number of data in terms of PAN card, Aadhaar cards, and
Yep.
multiple things that are getting. But how much is required? How much is not required? What is the minimal thing that we have, and what is the security and
Correct. Good
governance to
question.
that piece of data that is being collected? That's
Yep.
one
Yep.
thing that I would like your inputs on. Sir.
Sure. Sure. See, what is data governance, by the way? It's kind of a set of policies and processes. So
Hmm.
it's not a technical term to define.
Yeah.
I'm starting from data ownership,
Hmm.
data access policies, data security policies. So preparing that policy to make sure my data is consistently of good quality, accessible by the right people at the right time, and he or this group is owner of the
Hmm.
data, so they can decide who could access or who could shouldn't access the data, right?
Okay.
And then the second, that's the first point. The second point, the data should be traceable from the origin, from the
Hmm.
source, and
Hmm.
all the way to the endpoint in the data. We call data pipeline, right? You collect the
Yeah.
data, you do initial checking, you clean up, you prepare it, store it in data warehouse or data lakes or
Yeah.
lake houses, wherever it is. And then
Hmm.
it goes there and retiring or formally retiring it. There is a company policy saying how long I should hold the data. So the traceability has to be there. So when I said like data observability, that's part of data governance. Yeah, because observability also tells, hey, there is an anomaly. Anomaly could be if I'm collecting data from IoT devices, momentarily the power outage or momentarily the link broken. So I'm going to be
Hmm.
anomaly or an outlier, right? Example.
Yeah.
So how do I, and it gives an alarm saying, oh, hey, there is an anomaly. So I won't be using the data. The second one is what are the changes it is going through. So I'm collecting from two, three, four different sources, and then I'm cleaning up. I'm creating like as a data warehouse and data lakes, and all those tracing the changes it goes through is called data lineage
Yeah.
from origin to the endpoint. So the data observability, data lineage work hand in hand in order to make sure I have an effective data governance policy. Okay, for example, Harvard Business Review, they do a lot of surveys.
Yeah.
So they found out a recent survey saying more than 70% of the employees have access to the data they are not supposed to.
Supposed to.
Simple.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. 80% of analyst time is spent on cleaning the data, discovering and preparing. There's no shortcut. In fact, that varies 60 to 80%, but 80%, that survey says 80%. So the
Okay.
majority of the time spent is on cleaning. That
Hmm.
is why I want to leverage the AI technology, whereas that I can automate,
Okay.
so that I put the manpower into a more creative, productive way of looking at the insights, taking decisions. Okay. So coming back to the data governance, the data governance provide first thing if you want to list out accessibility, availability, it should be available whenever I want it,
Yeah.
quality, consistently reliable, accurate, and timely. Right.
Yeah.
Security. Is it secured? To answer your question, we have a GDPR, and locally we have what is called a PDPA, Personal Data
Yeah.
Protection Act. So people
Yeah.
should go through. If I'm making taking a survey, or if I'm a company collecting my the purchases consumers data, I should make sure
Yeah.
that I follow the PDPA guidelines. Yeah, like your
PPDP.
Aadhaar card, we are also most of the, yeah, PDPA we call. It's more or less like a
Okay.
GDPR. So like your
Okay.
Aadhaar card, what we do here, we have the NRIC number, which is the equivalent to Aadhaar number. We give you only the last 4 digits.
Hmm.
We call it a masked Aadhaar number, right? Similar to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they
Right.
follow that, the security. And finally, there should be auditing saying whether governance is in compliance with my policies.
Hmm.
Auditing also is very, very important to make sure I observe, I track the lineage of the data. So addressing these above points will make sure that my data governance is in place, a good effective data governance is in place, which makes sure that the data of consistent quality, secured, and available.
Taking you to that
Okay, that
point,
makes sense.
you are, yes, sir, it makes sense. So you are
Mm,
saying data has to be collected
yep,
in a way that it has to be collected. What is the retention period that it has to be kept, and that after that retention work is done, how do you dispose, archive, or delete? Is what I think the point that you are bringing up.
correct.
Taking that into consideration, what steps do you take to ensure that your data is clean, accurate, and reliable for analysis? Many of the cases we take
Yeah,
so much
good.
of data, which,
For
yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yep, yep. Like I said, data deluge. I mean, I'm overwhelmed with the data.
Yes.
Everyone is producing. We were talking about 175 zettabytes in a couple of years. Next year, not even a couple of years. Next year,
With IoT
right?
coming in, it has
So
become more.
the more data come, yeah. I mean, it more doesn't make really sense is better, right? It make things more complicated.
Yeah.
In spite of, I have a very cheap storage mechanism now
Hmm.
because you get 1 terabyte very cheap, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can carry in my hand 1 terabyte. And then I do have a good techniques and good software
Yeah.
to analyze, to make, to transform and load them. Everything is available. But still, I find it difficult to make use of the data to my advantage, to grow my business, to make profit. No, it's not possible. That's why we said only 29% of the organizations globally. I didn't drill down to the Asia Pac or Southeast Asia, but globally, only 29% of the organizations use the insights to make decisions positively.
Okay.
So the long way to go. And year over year, the surveys shows no improvement actually.
Oh,
It's kind of a quite flat. The last 3 4 years, if you look at it, it's quite flat. It's not increasing.
okay.
Yeah. So coming back to your point, how do I make sure? The first thing I establish data governance. The governance means I'm establishing policies to validate my data. Okay, and then to make sure it's accurate, make sure the source is reliable, trustworthy source. Internal is no issue, but external, sometimes we use external data. And then make sure the data is auditable. I have to do auditing, so make sure that my data is of good quality. So these kind of validation, data cleaning, or we call cleansing, and data profiling. Okay, some of the BI tools are doing it now. It's very good. Most of the tools are doing it now. Data profiling. First of all, I have to understand what is there on the ground. Before even start thinking what to clean and all this, I should understand. That's why the data exploratory analysis is one of the key steps before even I transform the data. So the data governance framework to measure the accuracy, completeness, and consistency of the data, and you can do the automation of these processes using ChatGPT or any AI techniques. So the organization's understanding of health and performance of data. Just now I mentioned about any anomalies or outliers that I do with adapting a technique called data observability. There are a lot of tools to automate this. So the observability employs automated monitoring and root cause analysis. It tells you, hey, look, the data you just got it from your Salesforce system or CRM system has got an anomaly, or it doesn't follow a particular usual pattern as an outlier. So it shows that. Then the next one is This is health, data health insight. The next one is a traceability. I need to know how the data starts from the source, goes through the data pipeline in the ETL process or ELT process, and then where it ends, like you said, yeah, the retiring of data. That's we call data lineage. So both go hand in hand, like they are two sides of a coin, right? Data observability, data lineage, and they form the critical component of data governance. So this approach, I mean, preparing a data governance policy with validations, with auditing, make sure consistency, observable, and I know the lineage results in healthier data pipeline, good quality data. Yeah. So this is again everything boils down to the first step, data strategy. Underneath we have data governance. Underneath we have data management with observability and lineage. They all go hand in hand. Yeah, makes sense.
Yes, sir, it does.
Yeah. Yeah. Observability is huge. Yeah.
So one
Yeah.
user says observability is huge. That's a comment that we've got from one of the.
Yes, yes, agreed, agreed. Because that, I mean, we have been doing it all along, but I mean, some people have come out with the new words because to define it properly.
Hmm.
Because if I don't have observable mechanism in my data governance, I wouldn't know whether there's going to be an anomaly or outlier. And if I miss that, obviously my output is not going to be the right one. So the insights I'm getting is totally wrong. It's going to be, and I can't take a decision based on that. Right.
Yes.
For example, one day due to some special event, a very annual event, my sales went up, right? Like Alibaba.com, that usually they have tens of millions on a per day basis. It gone to 1 billion one day, the Black Friday they call. So that's an anomaly. Can I take the data from analysis? I mean, it'll be misleading,
Yeah.
right? I have to treat it separately. I have to treat it separately. So that insight, that even that health information of my data comes from observability. Yeah. But again, to answer the question, the good news is that there are a lot of tools have come up very quickly
Hmm.
for data observability, data lineage. So that will make most of the jobs easier, simpler. Yeah.
Sir, how do we foster culture of data literacy and encouraging data-driven decisions making across the organizations? Because
That's a good question. In fact,
everybody generates data. A user generates a data, a vendor generates a data. Again, vendor and a user, it is a common thing, whether it considers as a user who is
correct, correct.
generating data. But how do we look at this pointer where we see decision making can be done for the organization with the data that we have collected? How do we put them on to
Correct, correct.
encouraging better literacy to them?
Yep. Good question. Actually, the very nicely organized. The question they go by nice structure. In fact, see again, if you recall the earlier, I think second question or something, we talk about the challenges of data strategy, leveraging data, right?
Yeah,
So one of them is involving not only the stakeholders, involving each and every employee into the project.
yeah.
Yeah, that means in a way building a data culture.
Hmm.
So how do I build data culture? Because employees have already, again, a lot of surveys are being done by Forrester and Accenture, Gardner, and some of these BI vendors like Click and Tableau. They do a lot of these
Yeah.
mainly on the data space because Click has actually they have the data literacy foundation they formed up. So to answer your question simply, unless I empower my employees to access the data, to understand, to analyze, and use it for their day-to-day decision making process, my data strategy will not be complete and any of my data projects won't be successful. So that is basically defined data culture, enabling and empowering each employee on utilizing the data without fear. Am I doing the right thing? Do I understand what it is? So when the dashboard or the visual is presented, can I make sense out of it? So that is called
Hmm.
data literacy, whereas the literacy meaning it's a capable, it's ability to understand the data, to analyze, to get insights and communicate that to your peers or to your seniors, and in fact, people had also argue with the data. That's again another capability. So data literacy. So in order to make the data culture, I have to empower, enable my entire organization. Again, one size doesn't fit all. So it's based on the role, based on the type of job, the task they do. You start from foundation data literacy and then goes on to the level they require, because each one requires different, right? So again, but
Yeah,
unfortunately, companies are asking why for data literacy. If I done data literacy training, that's going to cost me money and time, right? Fine. And then I'm going to lose my productive time. I'm going to put my employee for 1 day or a 2 day training. I'll be losing my productivity. So what's my ROI? Unfortunately, there's no answer. There is no tangible ROI for data literacy programs. I mean, that is why there are a lot of
not only.
discussions going on, but I don't. Yeah. Sorry, you want to say something?
No, sorry. What I meant, I wanted to add when you are saying companies say what is the ROI. It's been the case with security and privacy, which has always been a cost for the organization, and every organization thinks it is not required at many times. And most of the pointers is they come and get into a situation where they have to pay hefty fines, and then they come back and security should have taken it, or the compliance team should have indicated this as a risk, highlighted, referred. All these things come up when they are in real trouble. So I think
Absolutely.
that is where
Absolutely.
I see security, privacy, operations are very important for any organization to look at. Do you have the same thought?
Yeah, yeah. If the stakeholders are as understanding as yourself, it'll
Yeah,
be easier to convince them. Yeah, you're right. I mean, but directly mapping the ROI tangible benefits is a challenge. That's why they don't want to invest in data literacy programs.
correct.
At least in this part of the world, in Southeast Asia, we have been trying to identify. But on the other hand, a lot of these things happening across the enterprise, even small medium companies in the US and in Europe, particularly US. A lot of data literacy programs happening. There's a step one parallelly.
Yeah.
When you start thinking about data strategy, I should start planning for my data literacy program. Everyone in the organization, from CXOs to the lowest level of the employee, has to go through the data literacy program.
So you are right.
You should collect like understanding, analyzing, communicating.
I think
Yeah.
that is where
So
the privacy
building
of
there. Yeah.
sorry. That is why I think
Correct. Correct. I mean,
the privacy part comes in where you bring it by design or by default. So do you want to bring the
correct.
privacy
Correct.
to making it part of the design when they implement a solution or a product? That is where I think the organizations are looking at. Now, considering
Yeah.
whatever you've been telling us, it is more to look at, do you want it by default that security and privacy are part of the implementation, or you add it while you design so that the implementation becomes easy, right?
Correct. Correct. Yep. It should be part and parcel of your strategy. See, that's where you're right. Absolutely. Because see, when I enable empower employee, parallelly, I need to make sure the access and security is in place, the policy is
Yeah,
in place. Because I'm new. I learned something in data. I wanted to access the data. I go and then try to access every data in the company. I mean, I don't blame them. It's more curious. Curiosity is good, but
yeah,
as a data owner, as a CDO or the data owner, I should make sure who could access what kind of data before even I empower them.
yeah.
Yeah. So
So
coming back to
coming
your
to that
data
point,
culture. Sorry.
yes,
Go ahead.
I have another pointer here. So,
Yeah.
looking
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
access that you have given, access is given as you rightly said now. Everybody wants to have that curiosity of what the data is dictating or what is it representing. Yeah. And what would be the common pitfalls or mistakes organizations should avoid when developing and implementing a data strategy? That is another
Correct.
point that we should talk about, I think, because as you rightly said, people want to go and access that data, just want to see what it does, whether it making sense for their day-to-day work, or they want to see where is that coming in as a new structure for them. So I think that is where organizations have to put. How do you think about having
Sure.
that address?
Sure. Yep. I mean
Swaminathan.
that's where the data culture is again one of the very very important factor. Again, any data project. As a small company, I may not go for a well-framed data strategy, but at the same time, I should empower my employees. In fact, more than a big company, small companies even make sure each employee is data literate, right? So once they become literate, automatically the understanding of the data and then the importance of security, accessibility, ethics all comes into play, because the data literacy program is not again a one-time training program. It's an ongoing continuous learning program where you start with the foundation module and then take them through various levels based on the level of the job. So fostering data culture again is very important to make sure data driven decision making is part and parcel of my day to day work. At the same time, I keep in mind about data security and the accessibility of policies in my mind. Okay, so the data driven culture encourages the mindset of the employees to use data to guide the decisions, because the barrier is gone, the obstacle is gone. I'm more confident in using the data. I'm more familiar with the data access policies, governance policies. See, I'm kind of a senior HR manager. For example, I know what kind of data I could access. So I would access all the employee, including senior employees, and their salary detail, right? So, for example, so I'm aware of that. So I wouldn't even try to access any of the data because I know my access rights. That's one. So typically, a company collect two types of data, correct? They collect the valuable data from the employees as well as customers, or in this case, we mentioned about the vendors as well, suppliers or customers. So they should involve them as part of the stakeholder, saying, "Hey, look, I'm collecting this kind of data about you and customers or partners or vendors, an employee, and why I'm using it, where I'm using it, and why I'm using it. What is the outcome?" That should be shared with those people whose data we are collecting it. Okay, so this foundation set the strategy uh, for set the data culture strategy, and then emphasize the significance of a decision making process. So every employee has to be literate. Every employee should know about the data governance policy to make sure what access do I have and what I don't have. Very clear, transparent, right? Then implementing a data strategy becomes much smoother and easier.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Yep.
So, looking ahead, what trends and or developments in the field of data analytics do you believe will have the biggest impact on the business?
Yeah, good question. Let me check. I do have those. Yep. So there are several trends actually. In fact, I'm closely following up with the ChatGPT. Some of them I mentioned during the conversation, saying ChatGPT helps me to automate my cleaning process.
Yeah.
So automate my data observability or lineage, saying, "Oh, it's an anomaly. It raises a flag, and then it also fixes it for me." Right. So that's kind of very very in the high level. So the AI trend in the trends in analytics is going to be, first of all, real time analytics,
Hmm.
because we do have uh, techniques and technology and tools to store both the structured, unstructured, and semi-structured, including streaming of data. The stream could be from IoT devices or could be audio video devices, directly. So, and makes the real-time analytics easier for me so that my decision making is faster. I can provide personalized services to my customers and also proactively identify risks. If it's a manufacturing company, proactive maintenance, I'm going to find out when this particular machine is likely to fail. I don't wait till it fails. So that's more of a proactive. Okay. The second is the augmented analytics. I mean, this is for people who really not the tech savvy, not really the I won't even call experts, not very comfortable with analytics, but they do need the data, they do need the insights, right? So the augmented analytics help them to go through what we define as a self-service analytics. I don't need to be an analyst. I don't need to know the analytical. technology or a technique. All I know, what I want to know this report. Yeah, I want to know the customers. For example, RFM analysis. So I want to segment my customers. Whom are my loyal customer? Who are my top contributing customers? So which customers are hibernating? Should I go back and then wake them up by offering some special discounts or offers? Or what are the risk of losing my customers? Because we all know that acquiring a new customer is much more expensive and time consuming than retaining an existing customer. So how do I proactively do? But still, I don't want to learn analytics to do this. I want to get this thing done. So augmented analytics help them. Yeah, this is more of a self-service analytics we call. The third one again, data governance and privacy. So the implementing a robust data security protocols, access policies. There we have the GDPR and then the CCPA in the US, PDPA in Singapore. All this we are able to inbuild because two things. One, even countries at the country level, they do share information. For example, if I wanted to transfer data from one country to another country, at the same time, I want to make sure I follow the particular country's guidelines on data security and accessibility. Data transferring data from India to Singapore, do am I in compliance with the PDPA rules, right? So those being shared now, so that becomes a good trend. So I don't need to worry about. So there's a borderless money transactions. We are making like you have the GPay, and then we do have here pay now in Singapore, and we are talking about using those payment techniques across the countries between Thailand and here. I think between India and Singapore, we have the GPay, if I'm right? So how I make sure still I am compliant with the local laws and regulations. So that's another trend. Then the AI and machine learning integration in the analytics space, because like I said, automating my cleaning. Even I can also ask, hey, these are my insights. Can you produce a good output? Can you analyze this data and produce a nice summary for me? Can you produce a presentation for me? So that's where the AI is helps it. This is all kind of manual task, but still the decision making lies with the human being. Okay. Then the next one is explainable AI. Remember when I apply a loan to the bank, now their AI is kind of doing a application screening analysis, and it gets my credit score automatically from the repository, and it rejects.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can I know why it rejects? You should be able to explain. The responsibility lies with the software developer or the model developer.
Hmm.
That's a big question now. Yeah. So this is whether I can explain why it is being rejected. Or college admission. There's a lot of very interesting use cases in explainable AI case. College admission. I didn't get an admission. I get a good
Hmm.
score. I don't know why, but I want to know. So those are the things I had to be. You should explain as a model builder, responsible AI. Then the edge analytics, where the data is being processed at the edge. IoT devices produce signal. So if you have to transfer that to a central repository and then do the ETL process, there's going to be time lag, right? I lose the currency or the timeliness of the data. It's not current. My data is not current. It may be 2 hours old or it could be off day old. But if I built the analytic capability at the edge, we have the in-memory computing concepts where the data is analyzed, clean analyzed at the source level itself, so that I
Okay.
don't waste time in transferring huge amount of data. I do at the edge level. So edge analytics is becoming faster. It's not new, but again more focused now because the technology is allowing it. And then finally, we call data democratization. That's where the data culture plays into play. You democratize data, meaning empowering all employees at all level to access, of course, according to their access rights, analyze and interpret and take action accordingly. That's called democratization. I mean, it's a bit a long way to go, but Means we are on that path, at least in this part of the region in Southeast Asia, so that they create like augmented analytics help them to create dashboards. Though I'm not an expert in creating dashboard, but the self-service analytics or augmented analytics helps me to create that. So that saves a lot of my time. I don't depend on somebody else to produce my report. So these are some of the kind of trends we can think of.
Yeah, it's thank you for that. With this, I think I would like to summarize on what we discussed on today's topic.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
the predominant thing is data is crucial. Data is important for insights. Data has to be processed, managed, and destroyed accordingly when it is taken. And that governance has to be put across for the data which is collected,
Correct.
and their disposal and deletion also has to be taken care. Some of the security key features that we discussed, having access to data which he does not or a person should have or not, that is one thing that we discussed, and some of the trends that we discussed on how data is going to take leaps with LLMs and others coming in with AI and ML also being adding to it with large number of data that is there with us.
Sure. Sure.
So these are great insights, Dr. Swaminathan sir. Uh,
Thank you.
with this,
Pleasure.
we would like to conclude the session and thank you for being part of the sessions. Though it is late in Singapore, you've been part of the session. Thank you for that, sir. Hope to hear
My
from
pleasure.
you on many other topics as we want to explore more on data strategies of success and how it can make meaningful decisions for personally data and the organization's data.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Dr.
My pleasure, and thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Hope I was able to answer the question. Sometimes we
Yes,
feel
sir.
it'll be going back and forth, but it's boiling down to data, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
and good night.